is now 5 p.m. and this is for our city council workshop for January the 23rd of 2025. Meetings are available to watch on our YouTube channel. Search for the City of Bruceville-Eddy and click to subscribe the button.
Just do a recess.
You want to go ahead and go? Oh, you want me to do a recess?
Should do a recess.
Oh, okay. Okay. So we're going to take a short recess. We got one person here that needs to get her picture made right quick. And it's 5 p.m.
Just we had a workshop.
Our recess is over, and number 3 in our council meeting workshop is now in session. We have Chief Dorsey in the back, Michael Dorsey. We have Pam Combs, City Secretary. We have Jamie Rodriguez as the Water Department. We have Councilman Ricky Wiggins, Councilman Graham Brewer, Councilwoman Joyce McLaughlin, Councilman Richard Prater, and City Administrator Kent Manton, and then y'all know. So I think that's everybody that's on roll call. Number 2 is the citizens presentation. Do we have anybody that has signed up for this? For the city? Okay. And we need to turn mics on. I keep getting pointed at. Citizens presentation. The City Council welcomes public comments at this point on items not specifically listed on the agenda. Speakers must sign up before the meeting begins. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes each. The council cannot respond to matters not listed on the agenda until a future meeting, and we don't have anybody here to speak. Do we have somebody?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Number 3, council and staff photos. Mayor, council members, and staff to sit for professional photos provided by Gratz. Is that Gratz? Gratis by Doug Mullis, CPP, owner of the Pro Clicks Photograph at Bruceville-Eddy Business. Number 4, regulation of junked recreational vehicles, RVs. Council to discuss and consider the creation of a junked recreational vehicle, RV, ordinance, or other method to address several inoperable RVs that are a threat to the health and safety of this general public, including those that are damaged beyond repair and unable to be properly secured, show signs of significant water penetration, have rotten tires, and a harborage of nuisance causing insects and rodents, are missing vital components necessary for safety travel. And Joyce, did you have, this one, is this one you want to talk about?
Yes. I'm gonna turn to, yes, I just wanted us to discuss, the council to discuss about having a junked RV trailer ordinance. Now, I don't want an ordinance that would interfere or bother anyone who has an RV, that even if it's not running, it needs to be excessive. We're talking about excessive here. Something that is a health or safety hazard. If you're using your RV for, your grandkids come over for a weekend or something, and that's where you put them, and hey, and it may not run or something, but I'm talking about RVs that have no windows in them, the water damage is excessive, there are wasp nests growing in them, rodents are all, they're falling apart, basically. And they're a health or safety hazard to the community, they're a nuisance to the neighbors. I know there are two, on the street that I live in, there are two that are excessively damaged. There are rats that get in them. I mean, there's the possums love them. I mean, and when you live close in a neighborhood, when you have houses that are close together and you have that going on in the yard next to you, that close to your house, you don't really appreciate that. Because you're having to fight the problem too, because it kind of drifts over into your yard. And the mosquito problem, if you got if it holds water, if you have roof damage, where the water's getting inside of it, and just things like that, it needs to be excessive. That's the intent of the ordinance, that I would like the intent of the ordinance to be for excessive kinds of things. The door is missing, the window's missing. There's sewage running out on the ground when people get in it. There's no holding tanks for the sewage or the water, that's a health hazard to the water, groundwater, and to the neighbors around it. It creates mosquitoes. Things like that is what I'm trying to focus on. Not if you have a little hail damage on there, or maybe a cracked windshield or something like that. We don't care about that. We don't care about that. We're talking about really excessive damage where it's a real nuisance.
Yeah. It's more than likely nobody lives in them if they're that bad, so they wouldn't have to worry about sewage. I would assume. I would assume.
Well.
I would hope. Yeah, I would hope. I don't know.
But yeah, and children being around them, getting in them, it could be a safety hazard. They fall through the floor or something like that. So there's a lot of black mold. That's another thing. If there's a lot of water damage, there can be black mold, and that is definitely a health hazard. That you don't want those spores blowing around, and if it's anywhere near your home, then but like I say, it's and in the you saw in the packet where it says extensive damage, severely damaged components, significant water damage, dismantled parts, missing systems on it that make it a safety hazard. If a fire, I thought of this, if a fire happens to start inside one, someone is, using it for something, a fire starts in it, and you can't move it, it's up next to a house, and you can't move it, then it catches the house on fire. Whereas if it was operable, then you could move it away from the house, and it would burn, but the house would be kept safe.
So in other words, it can't have tires on it or anything, that would be excessive. Because
Excessive,
if it has tires on it, it can be moved.
right, if it has tires on it, and they can even have rot, it's when it's excessive, when there's no way you can, this picture is really a good example.
That's one that got rolled over, I think.
That, it was in a wreck, or it's just been sitting there for years and it's rotted down, and it's become a health and safety hazard. Because that's what ordinances are for,
Yeah.
or for our health and safety, and the safety
I'll
of
let
the
her
citizens.
finish.
Mr. Wiggins, you?
Well, if it's something like that picture, I understand it, but if it's a trailer, maybe somebody bought one and got a good deal on it, and it's a fixer-upper, and they're gonna, maybe, for example, I'll say, I've had one before, bought one and fixed it up, just take it to the deer lease, gonna use it for there, perfect. And redo the floor, something like that, and, maybe it don't look that good on the outside, but I don't care what it looks like on the outside.
Not
as long
a
as-
deer lease.
Yeah, not a deer lease, yeah. So on something like that, I wouldn't wanna do it, like I said, if it looked like that, then I understand, that's gonna take a lot of repair, probably can't repair it. But we'd have to define what's unattended for an extended period of time, what's an extended period of time?
Right,
We'd
right.
have to define
And that's
that.
what the discussion is about, so that we can figure out, what would be the definitions, what would the council be comfortable with?
Yeah, I'm
Mr. Prater?
kinda in the lines of, this goes back to the trailer situation also, what you deem is a nuisance and all that may not be what this man is thinking is a nuisance. I've owned some ugly stuff before in my life. I don't care what it looks like, as long as I can use it.
I'm not talking about
I was looking at that picture.
And once again, who are we gonna get to? Say one of these is back in the back of, somebody's property.
Yeah.
We can see it. The code enforcement can't go up there with binoculars and look at it.
Right.
And so who are we gonna deem because this person may think that if it's not a brand new 2024 or 2025, that it's a nuisance.
Well,
but
There
I'm
has to be
saying
definitions for that.
you're gonna have to put some definitions together before we bring it to council.
Yeah.
Right,
and
well,
get
that's
that
what this is
best-
for.
And,
Because it's like that picture that was up there, I'm looking at that, cause I've repaired, that, you can take that metal off the front here, wrap that, take that off and put another top on it, the inside may look great, it's just the outside, so you
Yeah.
can fix that outside, may not be perfect,
yeah,
but
I've
it looks like
fixed
all
them.
the wheels are working on it. and
I've fixed them
everything.
before, but,
And if they fix it, then wonderful. And if someone has a complains,
and,
it's not if they have it parked at the back of their property and nobody cares, the neighbors don't care, nobody cares, there's no complaint about it, then we don't care. It's when it becomes a problem to the neighbors.
well, yeah,
And then you have to have clear definition as to, okay, how far can you go with that? Has it been sitting there for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
All right, Pam?
Don't we already have an ordinance for junk vehicles?
Do you mind turning on your mic so we can get you up here? Got one there for you,
Okay.
especially.
Don't we already have an ordinance for junk vehicles that's what an RV is gonna fall under?
That's a good question. So the junk vehicle ordinance defines it as a self-propelled. So it would cover some motorhomes, but it wouldn't touch your pop-up campers, your fifth wheel trailers, hitch mount trailers, those things of the sort.
So basically, we just need to put something, add adjustment on that ordinance, not a separate ordinance?
You could create an entirely new ordinance, or you could just amend that one
Okay.
to reflect your changes. Depends on how comprehensive council's looking to move forward with here.
But then, yeah,
All
for
right.
the council, then they gotta, like Mr. Brady was saying, you gotta have somebody who's gonna have that responsibility going out. And of course, as far as I know, I haven't had anybody call up here to complain about a junk trailer or anything. Have you, Kent?
Yes, ma'am, we do have one.
One,
Mhm.
okay, one person. But, you know, we could get, who's gonna go out and say that that one is not fixable or not gonna be fixed or can't be moved or, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of things that needs to be decided on and worked on
Right.
before it's ever
Right,
brought.
and
Yeah.
if the owners, if the owner says, okay, I'm gonna fix this, then there needs to be a reasonable time for them to do that, because a lot of times people will say they're gonna fix it, but then 5 years later, it's still sitting in the same spot.
Well, I think that's what I was gonna say, is there has to be some indication that they're actually actively working on it. It's not a, I'm gonna, then you need to actually do something that will take and indicate you're fixing it.
Right.
And as for rats and possums and all that.
Well, I would say that you'd have to,
I would have to condemn my shop right
Yeah.
now, because I got a,
If you have a
Raccoon
storage shed
and a-
outside, you're gonna have them under it.
yeah, you're gonna have a rat in your house, I don't care what you do.
Yeah.
man.
I'd say you'd have to have it, you know, with a time frame. You know, maybe you're not working on it right now, because maybe you're working, and you're working out of town, so you can't. I mean, I'd go in there and take some screws out of something and say, yep, I've started it.
I started it.
You
so
know,
that's
I
what
mean,
you
I
gotta
can do
do.
that if we won't play that game, but
They
I
can
think we
do it.
need to have a time frame.
Yes, Pam?
Can we not do a permit like we do houses and give them like 180 days? And then see how far they get? And if they, or put a time limit on it and see how far they get, and then judge by how far and what they've got done to whether we extend the permit?
I
Yeah,
think,
that's kind of, that might be a
I
little.
think we
hard.
wear that permit thing out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's.
Well,
Yeah.
the only thing is that would kind of rush them up if they knew they only have so many days.
Because if they're like me, on a set income, they might
Yeah.
not can work and get it all done in 90, do anything extensively in 90 days. They may can buy a few, little bit of material, but
Right,
then you gotta have to
Okay.
hire somebody to do the labor.
What
you
if they
know.
don't want us on their land to
Yeah, they
look
don't
at their
own their
trailer?
land. Okay, Ms. McGruer? Yes, ma'am, please.
If it's addressing more health concerns, maybe it would be something to look at as the distance between homes. Like Richard's saying
reasonable.
he's got critters in his barn, but he's several hundred feet away from either neighbor on any side, so the chances of a critter getting into that home are just because there's critters out in the country.
Right.
But if you're only 10 feet away from your neighbor or 20 feet away from your neighbor, then that would be a different story, because now you are
Yeah,
breeding
okay.
critters that can easily go from house to house to house. We had that happen to us when we
I-
lived someplace else. Neighbor's house was full of rats, and where they go, they're gonna stay in that house, and they're gonna come to ours, and the other side of this house, and, you know, I mean, they do spread. So maybe that would be something in the ordinance, put a
Yeah.
distance on it.
Distance.
If your homes are so many feet apart, you gotta take care of that.
Because I have
That's
skunks and
reasonable.
rats
That's
and
a
everything in
good
my-
idea.
That's a reasonable
Because
request.
that's what's happening, where I'm at, there is a severely junked RV. And me and one other neighbor, we never had a rat problem before. And now, it's a breeding ground for rats, and that my neighbor is putting live traps out because the rats have gotten so bad. And so it needs to be, yeah, if it could be further, because it's right up next to all these houses. It's within probably 35 feet of my home, something like that.
I will say something about
Yeah.
that, because right now, the city hall here has never had a problem with the mouse either. You know, but we have found droppings since we've had such a dry area, and they come in from the fields.
Well, it's cold.
It-
They
They
got
wanna
no
get
name.
warm, yeah.
They're coming in there
This
and
No,
get
is
so
what
they're
it
warm.
was
coming in,
hot,
so
too.
they're coming in, you know.
This has been going on for,
So they're,
for a
they're,
while.
they're getting, they are, but they're everywhere, I mean, of
so,
Armand.
yeah, moving
Now,
it.
a roach is
I
a
like
different
that,
thing.
I like that idea.
April states are-
Yeah.
Move it further away
That's,
and
that's a
then
reasonable idea.
put a
Fine.
time on, hey, you know, get this fixed within 6 months or 8 months or,
I think we're just gonna have to put
Yeah.
something together
We'll
and
just
see
put
what
something
people
together and
say.
see.
And
What about Mr. Richardson down there? Wonder what his opinion is.
yeah, you've been quiet.
First of all, sorry I'm late, guys.
That's
Uh,
okay.
My thought is like, a lot of the concerns we're bringing up is, it's kind of, Chief, please correct me if I'm wrong in saying this, it's kind of how we're already approaching code enforcement. Just because something meets the elements doesn't mean that our code enforcement guys go and immediately write them a ticket. I mean, at least in the few experience I've seen, it's been like, hey, what's going on with this? What plan do you got? And the ticket and the ordinance side is just the enforcement arm of that if there is no progress being made. So it seems like kind of a lot of our questions kind of go into like what we're already doing as standard practice. I think that'd probably fall into the same thing.
All right, okay, yes, sir.
Excuse me. I really didn't want to say nothing, but talk about it. There's many junk problems we have, not just vehicles. Is that not correct? What have you done to your hair? I like that.
Thank you.
How about having the subjective thoughts about them, depending how many you got. If you got a whole lot, then you can't do that. But talk to them. It's very hard to set an arbitrary dates and times. How about having our people talk to these people and say, what is your plan here? I understand about the rats. They're very difficult, and Richard, it's hard to keep them out of different places, but when you have places for them to board and raise families and have other things from to eat on, it's difficult. So only my suggestion is, whatever it's worth, is maybe have it on inspection and subjective on person by person to see what's going on and say, hey, this can't stand, what you gonna do? And then you got 60 days or whatever to see we make some progress.
Well, the one that we've dealt with my neighbor is, a year ago. It's been a year, it will be a year in February. That's how long, and he has told the city several times that he would fix it.
Drop the hammer.
And he
No.
What I'm
hasn't
gonna
touched
tell
it.
you,
He moved
it's
it
same with-
behind-
One at a time, please.
He
Okay.
moved it behind the tree, there were a bunch of trees, but he hasn't, he said he was gonna fix it. And that it was gonna be very, you know, over the summer, I'll get it fixed, I'm gonna use it for this or that, which is fine, yay. But he hasn't touched it, so.
Okay, yes, Mr. Prater, okay?
I know the situation on here, I've talked to your neighbor about it. We wore him out because it was a trailer and it wasn't tagged and all that, and he went through the process of taking it down, getting it inspected, getting all the registration for it, and now it's considered an RV. And that's why we had it on the agenda last time, is because it was because you didn't like what was going on next door to you, I understand that. But, now he's done everything, he's jumped through every hoop that we made him jump through, and it turned into an RV. Now he's got it registered as an RV, and now we're going after him again because he went through all the hoops and he got it inspected as an RV, and he got
Never
it.
moved it, he never moved, he never.
Well, he
Let
got all.
got it
Mr. Prater finish,
inspected.
Joyce. Let Mr. Prater finish.
Well, he went through every hoop he had to do to get it registered as an RV. So, and now we're gonna bust him again because it's still not what you like. But I understand, but eventually this guy's gonna get sick of being harassed. And I think that's exactly what's going on here, is he's being harassed, he's being pointed out. And do what you may, but I'm 1/5.
Okay. You wanna see
I'm
what her
1/5,
response is
but
first?
I think this man's being harassed.
Okay, so what's your response? Mr. He's waiting, no, he's waiting on your
Oh,
response.
he's- I don't feel like it is harassment. it is a absolute health hazard to the community. He got very upset because he did not have a permit to put it on the property, and I pointed out he did not have a permit, and he got upset with me. He made threats to me, and the police, Chief Dorsey, had to get in between me and him. He came over on my property, and so it is a health hazard. It breeds mosquitoes. He has promised the city that he would fix it. That's all I'm asking. Fix the windows, fix the doors, fix it, so it is not a health hazard or a place where rodents can come and breed, and then I end up having to deal with them, and Mr. Ruiz on the other side of me has to deal with them. I'm not asking him to get rid of it. I have not asked him to get rid of it. All I've asked is that he would fix it, so that it is no longer a health hazard to our neighborhood.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, as far as breeding mosquitoes,
Mr.
any
Richardson.
swimming pool can breed mosquitoes. Mr. Richardson?
Sorry, I figured out. Turn on my mic. What was your name, sir?
Mr. Talbert.
Mr. Talbert?
Yeah.
I want to just chime in. I think yours is a good idea. Talk to them first. That's really where documentation comes in. We go out, talk to them. I know absolutely nothing about what's going on with the specific instance, but if you have a string of documentation, like, hey, it came out on this date, talk to them, they said they're going to do this, and this was our agreement. Came back 2 months later, and that hasn't been done. To have this, that's where that documentation comes in. So when you finally start hitting them with tickets and ordinance violations, you can come back, and when there's complaints, show that, hey, we've given him all these chances, these were the agreements, and that's just proper documentation, proper casework, which is kind of what I think the city's good about doing already on our ordinances.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. And,
But eventually, the hammer's gotta drop. Now, with what Richard addressed, and he knows this, we also have policies and in ordinances for RVs and camper trailers. So just cause it went from one to the other, and what I like to do is give people the benefit of the doubt. But sometimes the line's gotta be drawn.
Oh, I agree. Without an enforcement side of it, it's just words on a piece of paper.
And it'll run y'all crazy, but just keep, so it's very hard to set an arbitrary time.
I
If
agree.
people are trying, I'll give them credit, but if they don't, and don't, it's like the past due water bills, they agree to a thing, then they live up to it. If they can't tell me, and after a while, the meter's gotta come out. So it's the same with these things, and then, y'all got a lot of stuff on the agenda besides
Thank you,
that.
sir.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
If he would do what he promised the city that he would do, then it would not be an issue. But he has not done anything that the city has asked him to do in the repair of the RV. That's all I'm asking, of anyone that has a junk RV or vehicle.
Yes, ma'am.
I have to agree with Joyce on this one. The more properties that you have that have trailers that look like that, people are driving through our town. Is that a town you want to move into when everybody's got junk on their property? I mean, that's a reflection on the city as well as that neighborhood. So that's just something else to think about if you don't have an ordinance to help either get it repaired or get it moved.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But-
Does anybody else have any? Okay, yes,
Yeah, is he in violation right now, this guy, Kent?
It depends. If there was some sort of evidence of rodent harborage or some nuisance causing insects in there, then maybe he would be violating the health and safety standard. But if council really wanted to enforce on the general nature of the blight and the health and safety issues with junked RVs, then you're gonna need some more teeth in the ordinance, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
But as far as, right now, he's converted it to supposedly an RV.
He
So there is no violation there for that, because he converted it, did what he needed to do to convert it to an RV, right?
The original violation was for a accessory storage building without a
Okay.
permit. And so,
Okay.
yes, since he converted that to a a registered trailer with
Yeah.
Texas DMV, then no, there's no
Yeah.
longer.
But there's a
violation.
difference between, I can say that I've got a RV, you know, maybe I had a storage unit, now I can't have that. So I'm gonna do what I need to do to convert it to an RV, that way it's legal. But I'm still just gonna use it for a storage unit. In other words, maybe it's not livable, maybe it don't even have no beds in it, I don't know nothing about the thing, maybe it does, I don't know. But if he's converted it just for the sake of circumventing our ordinance, but he's still utilizing it as a storage unit, storing stuff, then that's not the intent or use of an RV.
Yeah, I don't think.
Does that
he's
make
storing
sense?
anything.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't think he's storing anything.
but I don't know.
Yeah. Mr. Prater?
Well, once again, we need to clean our own kitchen before we start telling somebody else to clean theirs.
Yes.
We're against the ordinance right here across the street for
Amen,
our
we are.
storage.
It's illegal.
And here we are again, telling somebody to do something that we're not doing ourselves.
That's true.
And these people are just seeing it as a slap in the face.
Yeah.
So
So
before
true.
we start making some ordinance about that, we need to make sure that we're not violating any ordinances across the street, which we know we are. So I'm all for cleaning your own house before you tell somebody else to clean yours.
Does
Yeah,
anybody have
and I don't
anything
disagree
else?
with that.
Yeah, that's the reason,
Okay.
that's the reason
Can we move?
he did it to begin with, is because
Yeah.
Yeah.
storage.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to number 5. Racial
Well,
profile.
what's the consensus of this? I mean, are we just
We're just
dropping it,
discussing, well,
or?
no, we're just
This is a
discussing it.
workshop.
We're just discussing.
Yeah,
Yes, Mayor,
okay.
Council, y'all do have a mirrored item on the regular agenda. If
Okay.
you'd like to pick this back up for some
Okay.
formal action
Yeah.
later
Alright,
tonight. We can
alright.
continue the discussion, but we do need to get
got
one
other
council
things
member
too.
in for a photo,
Right.
and then we have our city attorney's office here for a presentation as well.
Okay.
So now it is 5:32, and we're gonna take a small break. If you wanna go back there and get your picture made.
Sorry again.
No, you're perfectly fine. We had to do that a while ago with Joyce. So- Now, 5:34, and our break is over, and it is 5:34, and our workshop is now back in session. Going to number 5, racial profiling report, Chief Michael Dorsey. Council to receive a presentation by Chief Michael Dorsey on the 2024 racial profiling report.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone.
So every year, we have to submit a racial profiling report to Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, TCOL. And one of the things that we're also required to do is present it to y'all as well. So I prepared that report, racial profiling report for the year of 2024. I won't go over everything, but I did want to point out whenever it says total stops, that number is going to differ from our citations and warnings number, because this just goes off traffic stops, like how many vehicles and people you're encountering. So, you know, if you make a traffic stop, you know, we're collecting the data for the person that we stopped, the driver. However, if we issue like 2 or 3 citations, then that data is not going to be reflected in this report. This is just getting the racial side of it, the racial profiling report. So this number is going to be lower than our citations number. And the only other thing I wanted to point out is there was under number of complaints of racial profiling, we had 0, so that's always a good thing. And other than that, that's about it.
Any discussion on that?
No.
I do have one question.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just one thing that stuck out to me on these numbers, Chief, was the race or ethnicity known prior to the stop. Only 1 out of 2,171 stops was known.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any guess why that is or anything? It just seemed odd to me that out of over 2,000 stops, only 1 you knew what race the driver was.
Right. Well, I mean, the only thing I can say on that is we don't know the race of the person until we made contact with them. So I'm not exactly sure what the circumstance was on the one that was yes, which I can find out. But as far as all the ones saying no, you know, we know what the car looks like, but we don't know who we're making contact with until we actually get out of the car and walk up and see who it is, get them identified. And so that would be my response to that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or any
No.
discussion?
No.
I mean, as far as the data, I feel like it's, you know, reported as accurately as it can be. If there's something you think I need to check out, I'll be more than happy to.
Okay.
But as far as I know, everything is accurate.
All right, thank you, sir.
Looks good. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Eminent domain process overview, council to discuss, consider, and revise an overview presentation. Oh my God. Presentation from City Attorney's Office on the legal process associated with municipal eminent domain proceedings. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor and
evening.
Council.
How are you?
My name is Jennifer Ritchie. I'm attorney with Messer Fort, and so I'm pleased to be on the team that helps represent y'all. So we thought it might be useful to have a little bit of training on eminent domain, and so I'll go ahead and get started. And please feel free to ask questions. So, you know, this actually is fairly interesting, though it's dry for most people, so I apologize. I'm gonna get a little bit nerdy on y'all and talk about the history. So way back in England in the 1500s, you know, a lot of our law comes from Great Britain. Way back in the 1500s, the government of England was able to take property without compensating people. And so it was very important in our Constitution for us to have a constitutional provision, the U.S. Constitution, that continued the ability to take property through eminent domain, but require that the government pay for that property. And so you'll see on the screen that the United States Constitution and the Texas Constitution provide for eminent domain, but require that governments, when they take property, actually compensate the owners of those properties for the property. The reasons for eminent domain, I'll go over an example as well, but If you have a public use and the city can exercise eminent domain over private property or frankly even public property. And it's used when the owner does not want to sell or can't agree on a reasonable price for the property. And so, and if you think about it, it's for the general public good, because if, and I'm gonna give an example, but if the city's not able to get property it needs for a public infrastructure project, or the property owner were to ask for 5 times the fair market value, all of us as taxpayers will have to pay that price if it weren't for eminent domain. So let me give an example that maybe kind of explains that. So, and this is a made-up example, but let's say the city of Bruceville-Eddy needs a road or needs to put in a sewer line or a water line. And let's say I'm a commercial property owner in Bruceville-Eddy. I almost said Waco, I'm from Waco. In that situation, let's say that, that Bruceville-Eddy has gotten the right-of-way for this road on my whole street that my commercial business is on. And all you need is a little strip of land. And I'm the last person to sell, because Bruceville-Eddy's been trying, like you have to under the Texas code, to buy the property. And I'm saying to Bruceville-Eddy, well, either I won't sell it to you at all, or I'm saying, I'll sell it to you, but you need to give me some crazy amount of money to purchase it. So I, as a single person, can hold up that project or hold up that, and the example I gave was a road or a sewer line or a water line. I can hold up the project. If they're but for eminent domain, I could cause Bruceville-Eddy to have to redo where the road's gonna be. And you can see how that could be very hurtful for a governmental entity. And so what eminent domain does is allow a city, any city or governmental entity, to actually obtain that right-of-way, in my example, and allows us to only have to pay fair market value for that property. So I'm gonna show you, it's also covered in the local government code. And you'll see, as part of the government code, the state of Texas, which, you know, Texas is a strong property rights state. And so in our code, there are a lot of steps the city has to go through to make sure that we really are negotiating fairly with property owners and that we're giving them all the notices that they need. And so you'll see that, and by the way, this presentation is very wordy. I'm not gonna read the words, but I knew that y'all would have this presentation for the future so y'all could read it in the future. I'm gonna kind of do bullet points, but feel free to ask me any questions. But as you'll see, the government code requires that the council actually record a vote before you start the actual eminent domain process, meaning the actual filing of the eminent domain condemnation petition. There's notice requirements in state law, and it's so detailed that if council were to decide to actually file an eminent domain case on any property, I would work with Kent, or somebody in my office would work with Kent on what the caption says, what the public notice says, and we would actually even write the motion for you because it's that specific in state law what those motions have to say. And all of that is to give notice. So the process, and again, I'm just gonna hit the bullets. Under state law, we have to send a bona fide offer before the filing of the petition. We then, in that initial offer, we should include the landowner's bill of rights, and that's written by the Texas Attorney General, so I don't write it. It's a form that we have to include, that everybody in the state of Texas gets. You'll see that we have to have certain words in bold. I mean, it's very particular. We have to include a proposed conveyance instrument, and there's other requirements. And then we also have to give the property owner during this process all appraisals for that property that we have in our possession for the last 10 years. So you can see why in state law, they want the cities to be as transparent as possible. So if the city has an appraisal, we need to give it to the property owner so that a property owner doesn't have to pay for their own appraisal. And then 30 days after that initial offer letter, all these things are timed out, so it's a long process. 30 days after that initial offer letter, we have to send another letter. And it again, a copy of the appraisal, if you haven't included it in that first letter, is included, the proposed conveyance document, the Bill of Rights, and so then at that point, let's say we've done all that, we've been working with the property owner, but they don't want to sell or the price is too high. At that point, if they reject those offers, the city can file a condemnation proceeding or eminent domain proceeding. So the court will appoint special commissioners that are made up of 3 persons who are disinterested in the project or in the property, and they will have a hearing that both sides can present. Both sides can have lawyers, don't have to have lawyers, but both sides present evidence of fair market value. And at that hearing, the special commissioners will decide not whether or not this is a good public use, but how much money the city has to pay in order to get this property. After the special commissioners court makes a final determination of fair market value, it's filed with the court, and at that point, the city gets the property once we submit that. Let's say the special commissioners say this property's worth $10,000. Once the city puts the $10,000 in the registry of the court, we get the property. That's regardless of whether somebody appeals or not, because what you're appealing is the fair market value. So if somebody ends up appealing the special commissioner's ruling, and either side can, if somebody appeals that, that goes to district court, and it's a full trial, and it starts over. But again, the city would have possession of the property and could start their project. And so even though this is a very complicated process, I've just presented it in 9 minutes. You can imagine how much I've skipped over. But I'm happy to answer any questions. But I just wanted y'all to know kind of the process, because I don't know how often y'all have been through that, and we thought this might be a useful presentation.
Anybody, Mr. Williams?
What would be the time frame that you would guess that from the beginning to the end of the process?
Well, like any process, kind of depends on how hard somebody fights, right? But probably the beginning to the end of starting to send out the notice letters and get in front of the special commissioners court, I would say could be 4 to 5 months, depending on how fast everybody moves. And then at that point, remember they've got a schedule when these commissioners might be available. And then at that point, somebody could appeal, and it's hard to even estimate how long that would last.
Anybody else have any other questions, discussions?
I'll just clarify for the record here that all this would have to start with council action based on your created language, should they want to move forward with that.
Well, what I will say is you can start sending out those notice letters before council acts, and some cities do that. Some cities, and it just depends on what the strategy is, but some cities, and frankly, some cities do it depending on what's going on with the property owner, but some cities send out the notices and try to negotiate after the notice letters go out, and only if they're unable to negotiate something with the property owner, they put that item on the agenda. And some cities start with the council action right away. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do and how the property owner is acting.
Gotcha.
And at any point in this process, an agreement can be made with the property owners that would cease the need for eminent domain.
And that's a good point that I should have made myself. So let me make that, and that's a good point. So sending these notice letters obviously is to try to get an agreement. But even if you have to end up filing an eminent domain proceeding, at any point you can enter into an agreement and have a voluntary sale. So that sometimes happens on the eve of the commissioner's court, where people will say, I don't want to go through all this. Let's come to an agreement. So at any time you can come to an agreement.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you
much
for
for
coming
coming
here.
here. Thank you. Okay, number 7,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a second. All right, all in favor? All right, this is now adjourned. We'll regather at It is time for our regular scheduled council meeting. Meetings are available to watch on our YouTube channel. Search for the City of Bruceville-Eddy and click the subscribe button. Please mute your phones and computers to avoid any interference during these meetings, please. Okay, first of all, I want to say thank you all for being here. It's always a pleasure to see people out in front of me. When there's nobody out there, I just feel like I might as well just go home. Ain't nobody listening to me anyway. You know, but we love it. All of us up here love it to see people out there. We really do. It makes us feel good that maybe we're all doing something right up here, y'all coming to hear us. All right. If y'all would please stand now for prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you tonight for all of the people that are here for our council meeting and for all the ones that are home listening to us on the YouTube. We thank you, Lord God, for we know that without you, none of this would ever be available. We thank you for our beautiful days, our cold days, our hot days, our wet days, our dry days, because we know you know that we need these to survive. Lord God, I thank you for our council members and our city workers, our city administrator. I thank you for our police department and our volunteer fire department. I thank you for all the first responders. They have really been working hard for us here in Bruceville-Eddy, and I just want to say thank you. Lord God, if you could just grant us one thing, just let us all have the strength, the wisdom, and the courage to do the things that we need to do and to do it for our citizens of Bruceville-Eddy. Even though some people may not agree with what we do, we want them to know that we are working for them and we're doing it to the best of our ability. Lord God, I ask for all these things in the precious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. You may have a seat, please. All right, I'm going to start in the back with Jamie Rodriguez, takes care of our water department. We got Pam Combs, our city secretary. We got Chief Michael Dorsey, the chief of police. And we have up here to the left of me, I have Councilman Ricky Wiggins, Councilman Graham McGruer, Kent Manton, our city administrator, and to my right, I have Councilwoman Joyce McLaughlin, and I have Councilman Richard Prater and Councilman Brian Richards. Okay, and Justin Richardson.
We'll get there.
I'm calling you the judge. Of course,
you gotta have
could
Brian,
not.
so.
You know, he's a good man. So see,
I like Brian
yeah.
Richardson.
Oh, he's a good man.
Worked with a lot of cases.
And also here we have our city attorney,
Miss Jennifer
Ritchie, Miss Jennifer Ritchie. Okay. All right. Community announcements. Do we have any besides the fire department? We have one for the fire department there for you. No. Okay. The fire department's going to have their chili cook-off on the 12th, I think it is, of February. I think it's the 12th. No, it's the 8th. It's the, 7th. You sure? I thought they told me it was the first, like, they had to move it up because of something that come up. And they were gonna move it up to, anyway, keep watching for a sign coming up. It's gonna be coming up there, okay? All right, ma'am, you have some announcements? Oh, I said, ma'am. Pam said no.
So Danielle is not here tonight, but she sent me a message to not forget. So on the board is bingo, First Friday bingo at 6:30 at Bruceville-Eddy United Methodist Church. The mocktail will either be a chocolate martini or a cherry, margarita. Then we have a concert on February 8th at 5 p.m. in our sanctuary. It is the McNeil family. If you've never heard of them, they're very good. And it's a free concert, love offering at the end. And then we'll have our third Saturday vendor fair on February 15th from 9 to 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else we got?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
Just a couple more items here. Just as a reminder, City Hall will be closed to observe President's Day on February the 17th. Also on February the 11th at 6 p.m., it'll be our first Tuesday meeting for the Bruceville-Eddy Economic Development Corporation. You can see right below there, the developer who was interested in putting some homes next to the school district, that's WBW Development. They're going to be inviting the community to a couple more forums as they finalize their plans. So there's going to be one for the EDC on the 11th at 6 p.m. and then also City Council meeting for a workshop on February the 27th. So come on out and offer your opinions on what that should look like.
Okay, sounds great. Anybody else have any more announcements of any kind? Okay, for February, just remember your sweetheart. Valentine's Day is the 14th, so remember your sweethearts, guys. Just a FYI. All right, because your sweethearts do a lot for everybody, so just remember that. All right, anybody, anything else? Nothing? Okay. Moving right along. Number 3 is a citizens presentation. The City Council welcomes public comments at this point on items not specifically listed on the agenda. Speakers must sign up before the meeting begins. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes each. The council cannot respond to the matters not listed on the agenda until a future meeting. Do we have anyone signed up to speak? No. Okay, moving right along. Number 4, citizens' request for consideration. Council to discuss, consider, and probably take action on feedback and questions from Mr. Sergio Camino Carmona. I'm good at these names, I tell you. 406 Benton Street regarding the regulation of shipping containers, livestock, and fences. And the chili cook-off is the 8th of February. Just got it verified. Okay, all right, is he here to talk? No?
No, Mayor doesn't appear to be in
Okay.
attendance.
All right, so are we gonna say anything about it? Just move right along. We're gonna move right along. All right, number 5, executive session. The city council shall meet in executive session, discuss the following: Miracle Lane, McLennan CAD property number 105264, Texas Government Code section 551.071, consultation with city attorney, and section 101.05 Texas disciplinary rules for professional conduct. Confer with the city attorney to receive legal advice regarding Miracle Lane. And number 2, Miracle Lane, McLennan County CAD, property number 105264, Texas Government Code section 551.072, deliberation about real property. A governmental body may conduct a closed meeting to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if deliberation in an open meeting would have a determinal effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiation with a third person. Okay, and let's see. Mandatory connection to sewer distance requirement. Texas Government Code section 551.071, consulting with the city attorney, and section 1.05 Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct. Committee Development Specialist, Texas Government Code section 551.074, personal matters, discussions regarding the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, and or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear a complaint or charge against an officer or employee. Community Development Specialist, text.gov code and 551.074. Okay, it is now 6:11, and our regular council session is closed. We will 6:55 and our executive session is over. It is now 6:55 and our regular council meeting has got back in session. And we going down here to number 6. Eminent domain process overview. Council to discuss, consider, and receive an overview presentation for the city attorney's office on the legal process associated with municipal domain proceedings. I'm so sorry, my tongue sometimes gets twisted. Okay,
And we already had that one in workshop, so.
so we don't do anything on that?
No,
So
ma'am.
we don't have to, okay. So we're going to number 7. All right, fencing, okay, wasn't he supposed to say something? He was supposed to say something.
For the outside of the executive session, did we close that?
No, see, I didn't, he was, he's supposed to say something. He's supposed
Need
to.
to open the executive session.
I did.
Open session.
I, I closed it and then I opened up our regular thing. I've already done that. Okay, I'm thinking, huh? What if I do? But no, I already did that, or did that. Okay,
Okay,
Mr. Graham?
okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we authorize Kent and the mayor to move forward with all action to acquire the property on Miracle Lane as advised by the city council.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous, okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, moving right along, number 7.
Nope.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. Also, I'll make a motion that effective next pay period, make the pay adjustments discussed in executive session and make the city secretary pay adjustment retroactive from October 1, 2024.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
All of us.
About 3 different people.
I heard it from over at this end, the 2 gentlemen at this end, and I think it was Mr. Prater.
Mr. Prater.
You got that, Pam?
Mr. Prater made the second, okay? All right, now, I won't get to 7 yet. Now I'm ready for 7. All right, number 7. Fencing contractor, sewer system easement work. Council to discuss, consider, and possibly take action to revise the September 26, 2024 authorization for the city administrator to engage with a reputable fencing contractor for the purpose of coordinating and managing fencing repair work, streaming from secured easement access, requesting a total amount of $32,697.67 and a total NTE amount of $40,000 with costs going toward the line item 51-00-6682 of the sewer fund. Okay, Kent?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, members of the community. The fencing contractor who we've engaged with, Mr. Jonathan Lewis, serves on the volunteer fire department. He wasn't able to be here tonight. He got caught on a brush fire a little bit earlier. But he was planning to come out to answer any questions that you have. Not sure if you have a whole lot. This is a revision from that scope of work back in September after you gave me that direction to move forward in an equitable fashion with all the property owners on Anna Hobbs Lane. Just needed additional money to make that happen. So what this quote would include is the sewer system contractors, that being BlackRock, will remove all the fences. However, our contractor will help supervise and make sure that all the pieces are saved and that we're using as much material as possible again in the reconstruction of these fences. It will not include the cost of temporary fence, which we're estimating to be about $1,600 or so, but he would install all that so that all the animals are properly secured over on Anna Hobbs. And then, of course, the reinstallation of these customer fences as close as possible to where they are originally. We may have to offset a little bit for that because the sewer line might be on the current fence line, so maybe 3 feet in, And then, of course, we did send that letter to all the property owners on Anna Hobbs, just saying, hey, this is now an easement. You're aware of that. If you'd like the fence to be moved in to the edge of that easement line, then please let us know. And we've had about 4 or 5 takers on that. A couple other things to note on this one. This would also include the installation of gates where manholes will be located within those backyards. So there's 2 properties over there with the manholes, and if the customer does approve, we'll put the fences there. That way, Public Works individuals can go and access that in the future if they ever needed to use a jet truck. Of course, we're still recommending that the fence be moved to the edge of the easement line. That way we don't have to worry about this, but it gives us options. And so my recommendation is to make the motion for that not to exceed amount of $40,000. That gives us a little bit of flexibility if we go over that $32,000 quote. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Is there any questions, or do y'all want to make a motion?
No,
Okay, Mr. Wiggins?
I'll make a motion to authorize the city administrator to engage with the fencing contractor as stated here, not to exceed $40,000 with line items 51006682 of the sewer fund.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Joyce, seconded. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Police Chief Report, Chief Michael Dorsey.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes,
Good
sir.
evening, everyone. All right. I will start out with sharing our December 2024 Police Department report. For the month of December, we had calls for services 107, arrest, offense, and incident reports total of 17, criminal offense arrests 17, crash reports total of 8, citations and warnings 154, 98 citations, 56 warnings. Also for the month of December, some of our other activities that we're tracking, security checks 159, school zone enforcement activities 21, neighborhood patrol activities 35, directed traffic enforcement 48. And I also included our call type breakdown and also our citations and warnings. Also for the month of December, I'll share our school resource officer report. Calls for service 6, security checks 52, citations and warnings 3 citations, 18 warnings, and then 2 arrests. Now I also have our monthly activity report breakdown included as well. Also like to share our year-to-date report for the police department. This runs from January 1 through December 31, 2024. Calls for service was 1,424. Reports to include arrest, offense, and incident 170. Criminal offense arrest total 115. Crash reports 107. Citations and warnings is 3,089. Citations 2,081. And then warnings 1,008. Also for the year, I did a year-to-date for our activities, security checks. For the year, 1,868. School zone enforcement activities for the year, 183. Neighborhood patrols for the year, 494. Directed traffic enforcement for the year, 564. And I also have a year-to-date for our call type report, and then also citations and warnings for the year. All right, moving on to our city ordinance enforcement report. This report runs from December 13th, 2024 through January 17th, 2025. As far as the case statuses, compliant and closed was 4, non-compliant 21, more time requested 3, and citations 5, total cases 33, on types of violations, 6 animal violations, 8 rubbish, 3 junk vehicles, 2 dangerous buildings, 1 shipping cargo container, 2 livestock violations, 3 noise complaints, and 1 RV travel trailer violation, so total violations 25. Now, I also did a year-to-date for our city ordinance enforcement report. I just did, just to make it easier, I just did types of violations. So this is the whole year of 24. Animal violations 23, high grass 208, rubbish 155, junk vehicles 57, dangerous buildings 29, accessory storage buildings 9, shipping cargo containers 4, zoning violations 4, open burning violations 2, livestock violations 12, noise complaints 9, RV travel trailer 2, and city permit violations 2, so total violations for the year is 516. All right, and lastly, I just wanted to bring up an incident that occurred on January 5th. Just wanted to share everyone just a brief rundown of what occurred. I can't really get into a lot of detail, but I do think it is worth bringing up and just recognizing what occurred. On January 5th, approximately 12:21 p.m., the Bruceville-Eddy Police Department responded to a shooting that had just occurred in the 1300 block of Old Moody Road. Upon law enforcement arriving to the scene, a gunshot victim was identified as 38-year-old Dusty Nobles. Mr. Nobles, unfortunately, did not survive. He succumbed to his injuries, a gunshot wound, and he was pronounced deceased on the scene by Justice of the Peace. And then we quickly identified what had occurred that day, and also identified the person responsible as being 18-year-old Brandon Davis. He was taken into custody on the scene and transported to McLean County Jail, where he's currently being held for first-degree murder. I just ask that you please keep the victim's family and everyone involved in your thoughts and prayers during this very difficult time. So, unless anyone has any questions, I think that's all I have for right now as far as reports.
Is there any questions? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.
Thank you, Chief.
All right. 9, racial profiling report. Chief Michael Dorsey, you might as well just get back up here.
Well, I say, you sat back and why sit down?
Chief
Council to
Dorsey.
receive a presentation by Chief Michael Dorsey on the 2024 racial profiling report.
And Chief Dorsey already provided that at the workshop, unless y'all want to do it
Okay,
again. or-
no, do you need to do it again? Okay, it's
I
already
can-
been done inside the
I'm
workshop.
presenting again, or whatever y'all like to do.
That's fine, sir. You don't have to.
Okay.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We just wanted to
See
see you get back up.
Let's see if there's anything else here I need to skip. Okay, Public Works Director's report, and Gene, and he's not here, so he was out on call too. And he said he didn't have anything for us. Okay? And he's, they were called out on a, bush fire or shrub fire or something. Yeah, he's out, so get that later. Okay, Engineers report, Kent? You have anything
Mayor,
on
Council, I
that?
can answer any questions that might have come up from that engineering report.
I don't have anything. I don't see anybody with their hands up. Nope. Okay. 12, City Administrator's report, Kent Manton.
Yes, ma'am, now I get to yakking,
Now
okay.
you got, hey, now he's got this list, nope.
Here we go. I cut out what I don't think I need, but I can always go into more detail if you need it.
That's okay.
First and foremost, yes. So Councilmember Justin Richardson, just want to recognize him. He came and provided no-cost training, CRAZE, Civilian Response to Active Shooter Events, to staff at our last Employee Appreciation Luncheon. So this is a material that was developed by ALERT, the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training. It's a sad state of affairs that this training is even needed, but I think it was very engaging, kept everybody on the edge of their seats, a lot of new information for a lot of folks, but I think it refocused on what steps we should think through taking should an incident occur. Of course, you know, being in local government, not everybody's always happy with what we do, so the threat is real out there. We've seen the headlines. Just a quick update, our financial audit for the 23-24 fiscal year is currently underway. We've got the auditor stuck over there in that room conducting his business, so you should be receiving that report in the next month or so. Lastly, onto the sewer. We are still working on those right of entry forms. We're getting down to the last few. Thank you, Janie. Thank you, Pam. Thank you, their city staff, for making those phone calls. That's what we're on right now. The next step will probably be a door-to-door campaign. But we're really getting to those properties where there's some sort of probate issue or potentially some sort of estate problem where the ownership isn't real clear, and we're kind of having to work through and decipher that. So there will be a few properties on the sewer that we might have to circle back around to for those connections. The Anna Hobbs easement section. So we did have a coordination meeting for this work with all the contractors for that easement work in the backyards along Anna Hobbs. In attendance were Tabor and Associates, BlackRock Construction, Sky Blue Utilities, Superior Welding and Fabrication, our fence contractor, and then Public Works staff. So despite BlackRock's scheduling indicating that they would be working on this on early to mid-February, we were informed at that meeting that they potentially weren't able to do that. They didn't have the equipment mobilized and ready to go, and they also needed to go back through and do some survey and some more engagement with potential conflicts. So right now we're anticipating an April start date on that instead of early February. We're waiting on an official notification from BlackRock via email. Regardless, the city of Bruceville-Eddy is not delaying this section. We are prepared to execute and perform our portions of the work in that easement should they be ready to move forward. On to the water system. So the Falls County water well, we have revised the terms for that new proposed well, and we sent those out on 12/31/2025 with a deadline for the property owners to respond back to us by the end of February. You'll see in that engineering report that our applications for grants aren't looking very promising for this project. We are not a disadvantaged community, surprisingly so. I know I get a lot of questions on that, but the medium threshold is not met. We could potentially spend some money, probably looking at $15,000 to $20,000 to engage a survey for some potential direct recipients of that Falls County water well. I was about to say waterfall. That's not what we're building. So I don't think that would work out in our favor. So we're probably looking at some sort of loan long-term for this. Regardless, we need to get the land executed first, and then we'll move on to the next steps. We are still on board for the Falls County Water Advisory Group. They just got accepted for their Water Smart grant. There is a potential that we still could be a qualified project under the Falls County umbrella, but we're waiting for some more information on that one. Okay, just some general updates on some of our other grants. The Community Development Block Grant for the water line improvement between 3rd and 4th Street. We did submit our required financial report for that to TDA this past week. The project officially kicks off next month. We'll be setting up a meeting later in February to talk about what that looks like. Again, the work probably isn't going to be happening on that until at least summer 2025. That may not even be until when we actually go out to bid. We're trying not to conflict that project with the sewer work going on currently. And then lastly, documentation was submitted to public management for that general land office resilient communities plan grant. That's for the planning grant is what that one's for. Okay, and with that, I can answer any questions that you might have on development. The only one that I wanted to point out again was just that the community forums for that WBW Eagle Prairie next to the school campus will be held on February the 11th at the Economic Development Corporation meeting. That's at 6 p.m. And then City Council workshop on February 27th. This is that plan development that's being proposed. They're asking for some more feedback as they move forward with their next steps.
Any questions? No? Okay. All right. Thank you, Kent.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda will be considered by the City Council and will be enacted on one motion. There will be no separate discussions of these items unless a council member or a member of the public so request. A, approval of the minutes. B, financials for December of 2024. Council discuss, consider, and possibly take action on the December 2024 accounts payable for the general water and sewer fund account. C, grazing lease agreement of Ms. Coker. D, Blue Bonnet Director's nomination. E, Rifle Vest Program Grant. F, Bullet Resistant Ballistics Shields Grant. And that's it. Do we have anybody that wants to pull anything out, or we have a motion? Mr. Wiggins.
I'll make a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda.
Okay,
Agenda.
all right, Mr. McGurr, seconded. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, number 14, regulation of junked recreational vehicles, RVs. Council to discuss, consider, and possibly take action on the creation of a junk recreational vehicle, RV, ordinance or other methods to address severely inoperable RVs that are a threat to the health and the safety of the general public, including those that are damaged beyond repair or unable to be properly secured, show signs of significant water penetration, have rotting tires, and a harborage to nourish, causing insect and rodents, and missing vital components necessary for safe travel. Joyce, do you want to talk
Well,
on this more?
we discussed this in the workshop, and it was, the reason I brought it up was mostly for discussion, to kind of see where we could have some kind of city ordinance that would help to keep severely derelict RVs, where people had to either repair them or remove them, just like a junked vehicle. Or it was also mentioned, this was during the break, that we could go in the direction like the ordinance we have on derelict homes, where it gives the person an opportunity to repair it. If they're repairing it and they're making an effort to make it safe, make it sanitary, then hey, we're good. The city is good with it. And it's just for future, have an ordinance of some kind for future to help our police officers and our city workers to be able to get these folks to clean up their yards, basically, and make our community a safer and more sanitary place. And it was mentioned earlier, and I've done this. I've driven through small towns, and well, it was like driving through a junkyard. And I've made that comment in my car. It's like, well, that was like driving through a junkyard. That city needs to get their citizens to clean their stuff up. You know, well, we don't want people driving through our town saying that. Well, it's like driving through a junkyard when you go down that road. You know, I mean, we want people to want to live here, bring their children here, feel safe, feel sanitary, especially when you're living in close quarters. It was mentioned that perhaps we could have a distance where if they wanted to store it a safe distance, so that if it was something that brought in rodents, it wouldn't affect the house next to it. So that was an idea of putting that in an ordinance and giving them opportunity to get it fixed. That, you know, we want a nice, safe, clean, pleasant community. And when you live close to people, you know, I don't like looking out my windows and seeing a junkyard next to me. And it's not just my neighbors, but this is all over town, and I've heard these complaints from other folks. There's an RV right now that is on a property that's when you walk out of Eagles Landing, you can see it. And it's a severely damaged RV, and it used to be behind the house where it wasn't a nuisance or a problem, and now they moved it literally to the street. It's right on the street. Well, we have nothing in our ordinances that would help our enforcement to get them to move it or repair it or anything. And we got people coming in from out of town eating in our restaurants downtown, and they step out and what do they see? You know, I mean, we want our town to be a nice, clean, pleasant place for people to come visit our restaurants and our businesses and not have, and I'm talking about severe problems. I'm not talking about you got an RV and your grandkids come visit and you put them in the RV for a week during the holidays and, you know, it might have some minor things wrong with it. Or if no one complains. It was mentioned before, well, the way we enforce our ordinances is if there is a complaint, then it's investigated, excuse me, to see if it's a legitimate complaint and a legitimate problem. And this ordinance would be no different. If there's not a complaint and the neighbor doesn't care, then there's no need to bother them.
Anybody, Mr. Wiggins?
Got to turn that on. Oh, as we talked about this quite a bit, and at a workshop, have we, again, Kent, have we had any, has this been an issue? Has this been a real issue in our town?
We've had a couple issues with it in my tenure here. Some of those have been compliant, some of those we've faced resistance on it, but this is more so than just what we've experienced in the past. You know, you're laying the foundation for those future residents as well, for those future problems. The tricky thing with our PD enforcing these ordinances or staff having to do that, we can only go as far as you've given us the authority. So if council wanted to give us some direction on those baselines for what constitutes a severely inoperable RV and get that defined, at least if there was an issue to arise, we could use that as a tool in our toolbox. Do we always have to do that? No. If we have a notice of violation that PD issues out to a homeowner and they're actively pursuing it, none of us wants to move that enforcement train down the road. So that would help.
So in your opinion, do you think we need to do something here in order to have some teeth, I'll say? Do you think we should work on coming up with some type of ordinance for this?
I think if you want to address the blight, you want to address the health and safety aspect of this, then yes, we would definitely need some more teeth on that. Now, what that constitutes, how you want to define that is completely a policy decision. And the legislative language that you use to enact this, I mean, we've got the justification in state law to do that. It's just what are those nuances you want to constitute the definition of inoperable, severely inoperable?
Is there something that we can take from maybe some other cities, I'll say, some language from them and come up with a ordinance?
Oh yeah, for sure. This is a cookie cutter business. We can go out there, we can take a look at some other city and come up with some options for you.
Okay, that's all I have. Mr. Prater,
This is
please.
to talk now.
Okay, Mr. Prater.
I'd like to see what it looked like on paper.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that's
with no
pretty well,
action tonight.
pretty well I'm
Just
getting
throwing out
at.
a bunch of stuff. I'd
Right.
like to see it on paper and
Yeah.
have another discussion about
Oh, yeah.
if we can take this
Definitely.
and drop that and, I mean,
Sure.
it needs to be addressed, but I think it needs to be on
And
paper.
this will give the
Well, sure.
citizens time to
Yeah.
come in and talk
Right,
about it too.
right, get the citizens to come in, talk to us about it and put it out there and see what they think.
All right. Yes, sir.
My thinking is from the discussion that we had earlier and everything, I mean, make a motion to table this for next month, gather either Chief Dorsey or Ken or somebody, gather some similar ordinances from similar sized cities, and then we'll bring this back up next month at the workshop and go from there. Cause it seemed like we all basically wanted to think an ordinance is a good idea, it's just the devil's in the details of why we couldn't come to a consensus.
Okay, so I heard you say you made a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to
To table it,
table it till, next workshop and review
Okay.
some similar policies.
okay? do we have a
I'll
second?
second that.
All right, all in favor of tabling it till next time, okay? Unanimous, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, okay? 15, transfer of certain legal services. Council to discuss, consider, and possibly take action to replace Art Rodriguez, partner of Mercer Fort PLLC, with Michael Gershon of Lloyd Rosel and Townsend PC for all the city of Bruceville-Eddy's water system action PUC complaints. Okay, what you got here?
Yes, ma'am, this was a council member requested action on there.
Mhm.
Mr. Wiggins, you want to pick up the ball on this one?
Sure, yes.
Oh, look at all them good people.
Yeah, yeah, I requested this because, we had some issues in the past, and we used, Mr. Gershon was the, legal, attorney that we used for it, and they're a well-known firm out of Austin, and he did an excellent job. I believe, Mayor, you might have attended the legal proceeding, I believe.
I think so, yes, sir.
Yeah, and I think this is his expertise. So I think by just shifting just their PUC stuff, complaints to them, I think it's gonna be in our favor, I'll say.
Okay, Mr. McGurk?
Let's see if I can get, okay. I'm curious, do we have a problem with Messer Fort, who is currently handling our city's legal, and they have specialists in different areas, or do they not have a specialist in these PUC issues?
So, yeah, Mr. Art Rodriguez is who we've been assigned for the PUC complaints. He's another city attorney. He serves as city attorney for several different cities. He actually came from the same law firm as Michael Gershon, Lloyd Gosselink, and he has extensive experience in water and wastewater. The only comment I would just throw out there is sometimes getting in contact, following up with him for proceedings and stuff has been a little bit sluggish, I guess I would describe it. But as far as capability, I haven't experienced any issues with him or the firm.
Anybody else? Mr.
How far into, sorry, I'm playing catch up on all this. How far into the process are we with the current attorney, and will there be additional cost in switching over?
That is, on the cost, I haven't really got into
Yeah.
that one just yet. Or the Mr. Gershon's availability to take on this additional casework. But as far as the timeline, we're about midstream on both. For one, we've been ordered to agreed upon mediation. On the other one, we're still waiting on some hearing dates that are expected in the summer of 2025. So if another attorney were to step in, there should be plenty of time to catch up and to be able to hop into things.
Yeah, I think I'd really like to make a motion that we check with Mr. Gershon and explain to him what all we're wanting to do, our PUC cases that we have, and see what he could do for us, and the cost, make it be cost effective, but, and then get back with us, and then we'll know what he says or how he feels about it. I think that'll be my motion, is to do that.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Prater, you seconded it? Seconded it. There you go. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Mr. Prater, number 16.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, Joyce seconded it. All in favor? All right. It is now 7:30 and our meeting is now over. Pretty good one, yeah.